Welcome to Millennial 719. I'm Andrew.
I'm Pamela.
Laura is in New Orleans this week, and in her place, we have one of our hypeable friends here with us, Karen. Hi, Karen. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
Pam and I have known you forever. We love you. Tell our audience about yourself.
I'm a full-time freelance writer and editor, and I've been working for Hypeable for 9 years now, which is crazy. And I cover all sorts of things. Started with Teen Wolf, and now we're at books and Percy Jackson and movies and basically anything Andrew makes me write.
You have a lot of free reign, too.
Yeah, I do.
That's also how I describe my job at Hypeable.
Everything that Andrew tells me to write.
Anything Andrew sends me.
I do forward Pam a lot of emails.
Yeah. But you also let me write a lot about, to be fair, write a lot about what I want to write about. So that's really nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Trust me, it's a relaxed ship at Hypeable. Sometimes too relaxed. Yeah. So I wanted to have Karen on today, for starters, because Pam and I have known her for so long, but also I'm really impressed by how Karen went from an online side hustler on Fiverr to becoming a published author. And, you know, as somebody, you know, Pam knows this too, like we both hustle online. It's so exciting to see what Karen has done. And I'm just so impressed. So we'll talk about that later in today's episode. Also today, we're going to talk about the CDC's big new mask guidelines. We're also going to talk some Disney theatrical news. And in After Dark, we're going to discuss shitty workplace environments through recent news about two shitty workplaces, the Ellen DeGeneres Show and Basecamp. Speaking of shitty people, though, I had a question for you, Karen, and this came to me in the shower on Saturday. I know that's a little weird, especially since you work for me.
God.
Karen's already regretting this. How annoying was it to have your name turned into a meme about shitty white women last year? Did that drive you crazy?
No. Well, for one, I just have to say, when you said, speaking of shitty people, Karen, I thought you were saying that I was the shitty person. I was like, damn, Andrew,
No.
You don't have to come for me this early in the recording. No, it doesn't bother me. Honestly, I've been receiving Karen memes for years. It doesn't bother me. People make jokes all the time. I feel like the only people who get offended are either women not named Karen or people who just take themselves too seriously. There's nothing to be mad about.
But it's giving Karen's a bad name. I would be annoyed.
Look, Karen is an idea.
Excuse me?
It's beyond a name. It's an idea of a person who's shitty, and I don't think I fall into that category. Therefore, it doesn't bother me.
You are not. Pam and I were saying this earlier. Karen is the least Karen we know.
The
and I mean
only
that
Karen
in a good way.
that I stan is the Karen of Hypeable.
Okay, so I was actually expecting you to be mad about it, but I will say, good news for you, I guess. Maybe not anymore. I feel like the Karen trend, the meme, is dying off, which I'm glad about too. Like that got tired pretty quick.
Maybe, I don't know. I feel like it's still pretty prevalent, although there was a height to it at one point, and I think that part has died down a little bit, but I don't think it's going to go anytime soon.
Oh, I'm not sorry because it doesn't bother you. I'm over it, though. I would like to see us move on from the whole Karen thing. It was stupid to begin with.
Maybe it'll be Andrew's next.
No. What would give you that idea?
Isn't the male equivalent of Karen Chad?
Richard, actually.
Oh, it's Richard?
Oh,
Yeah.
that's funny because there's a Richard on
interesting.
Hypeable.
There is.
That I might agree with sometimes. So let's talk about this big mask news from the CDC. It's remained a big story because it's such an important and shocking story. The CDC said to Americans that masks are no longer required for most indoor situations for those who are fully vaccinated. There was no warning that they were going to make this announcement. We actually recorded a breaking news segment about it for our Bay patrons last week as soon as it happened. My thoughts on it have actually evolved. I was happier, but then the more I thought about it and the more I read the, in some cases, backlash, the more I became frustrated by how the CDC made this announcement. The guidance, like I said, it came out of the blue. Some states and businesses quickly followed with lifting their own mask requirements. Some states and businesses are still holding the course. As of Monday, these businesses are removing their mask requirements if people are vaccinated. Costco, Publix, Starbucks, Target, Trader Joe's, Walmart, and because I live in Vegas, I have to mention all MGM Vegas casinos have removed their mask mandates. Now, I will say my boyfriend Pat went to a Starbucks and Trader Joe's over the weekend. In both cases, they were still requiring masks there. So I guess it's going to be not just a state-by-state basis, but these individual businesses are going to have to decide for themselves when to remove the mask mandate. I wish that instead of saying, hey, starting immediately, masks are no longer required indoors, I wish they would have said, hey, starting May 31st or starting June 1st, no more masks indoors. And this would have given businesses the time they needed to digest this, reflect on it, think if now is the time for them to remove the mask mandate, rather than being caught with their pants down. And now they have customers coming in who aren't wearing masks, and they've got Joe Biden and the CDC on their side, even if the business is not ready to remove this mandate. So what do you two think of this?
I mean, I'm seeing a lot of people online kind of sharing my sentiment of a lot of this, it's for vaccinated people, but we're going on the honor system, and there's a lot of people who are not going to be truthful about whether or not they're vaccinated. And I've also seen a lot of people being like, look, I haven't even gotten a common cold in like 18 months or something because we're all wearing masks. Like, it's just a cleaner way of living. And I feel pretty uncomfortable about it. I think I'm fully vaccinated and everything, but I think that I'm going to keep wearing masks for at least a little while longer, just until we get more people vaccinated and we kind of figure out how to live in this new world of still being worried about Corona and trying to move past it.
So California has just announced that the state is keeping the mask rule until June 15th. So I'm not really sure how that is really going to affect how much pushback I see in my area, especially living in a bluer area of the state. But I'm sure that businesses specifically are already bracing for this. And the reason I say that is because I went to a couple stores over the weekend, including a pet store, and they have their signage now in a place where you can't miss it before you can even walk in. Yeah. So I think that they're trying. Yeah, I think that they're trying their best to make sure that their employees don't have to deal with having to enforce this, because it's like nobody that works retail gets paid enough to, have to argue with people that are just angry and frustrated and don't want to wear a mask for whatever reason, Right. So, yeah, I think, and I know a couple of people too in the Discord have been pointing this out. It's just, it really sucks for the essential workers that are now going to have to figure out how to enforce this or field questions from people that are not uncomfortable with other people going maskless.
Yeah.
And still want to wear their masks.
And for that reason, I'm going to continue wearing a mask in stores, even if they're not requiring it. And also, selfishly, for the reason Karen brought up, I haven't been sick in over a year. It's great. And I'm no longer comfortable breathing the same air, like breathing unprotected, which sounds weird to say. But yeah, this is going to be a transition. Whether they made this announcement, last week like they did, or a year from now, there was going to be this transition. There was probably going to be a little bit of backlash because people have gotten so used to this. I will say, to play devil's advocate, if not now, if they didn't make this announcement now, when? Daily cases have been dropping. More and more people have been getting vaccinated. People would not have been any more comfortable with this decision 3 months from now, or even 6 months from now. I think the CDC may have thought it's time to rip the Band-Aid off and start getting back to that new normal that we've all been anticipating. And for some people, that new normal is going to be continuing to wear masks, even years from now. And I'm so cool with that. I'll probably, as we've said on the show before, I'll probably wear a mask on a plane. I like covering up half my face, honestly. I like being incognito.
You know what? I do too, because then I don't have to put makeup on.
Yeah, right.
It's great.
I've got acne. Oh, who cares? It's covered.
It's fine. I can put a mask on.
It's been really interesting to see the reaction from people. And I think Please don't feel ashamed if you're out wearing a mask while so few people are. It's been really hard for me. I went into a Lowe's home improvement store over the weekend and I saw some people not wearing masks, and they were still requiring masks. But, what are they going to do now? They can't start policing people because they can be like, well, Joe Biden said I don't have to wear a mask anymore. And I'm like, God, I look at these people in the store and I actually get mad at them in my head. I'm like, oh, how dare you? But then I have to remind myself, Joe Biden's posting photos of himself maskless standing next to Kamala Harris. Joe Biden signed off on this. So I can't be mad, but I still feel mad. It's a tough situation. I want to go Karen on these people. And I remind myself that the Karen we know would never do that.
I'm glad I could be an inspiration for you.
Karen is an idea. Oh, so Karen. Oh, yeah, this is funny. So you live in Ohio.
I do.
Tell us about this lottery program that's going on.
Yeah. So Ohio has this Vax-A-Million program. Basically, in 3 weeks, I think it was like June 6th or something like that, they're officially lifting the mask mandate statewide, which is what has me a little worried and everything. But our governor, DeWine, he also set up this Vax-A-Million program where if you're vaccinated, you have to at least gotten your first shot by some date, the end of the month, I think, and you can enroll in a lottery. 5 adults will be chosen at random to win $1 million. And the money comes from the leftover corona relief funding that Ohio has. And I think they're also giving full ride scholarships away to kids. Kids 12 to 17 can enter, and they'll get scholarships to any Ohio State university.
Wow.
That's amazing.
I feel a little weird about it because part of me is like, would I want $1 million? Yes, absolutely. Who wouldn't? But at the same time, this money was supposed to go to like relief and stuff. And I'm sure there's people who've been impacted by the pandemic that are still struggling to get their feet underneath them.
But on the other hand, if it gets more people to actually get vaccinated.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think it's moving the needle? Is there any data to back that up yet?
I saw something about there was a recent spike in people over 75 getting vaccinated. There was like a 6% increase or something like that.
They really want that $1 million for the last 5 years of their life.
Yeah, maybe. I haven't read anything else yet because they just announced this over the last couple of days. But yeah, I definitely wouldn't be surprised if this actually gets at least a small portion of the population to finally, the people who are on the fence to finally just get vaccinated.
That is very interesting. We can skip this feedback. I feel like we talked about it. Our listeners were sounding off in the Millennial Facebook group, and a lot of people were frustrated by the CDC's decision. And I agree with them. I just think it's they should have given us a warning. But then I was thinking, on the other hand, let's say the CDC comes out and says, okay, guys, June 1st is when you no longer have to wear a mask indoors. What would have happened? Everybody would have started planning parties for June 1st. And then there would be all these mass gatherings happening, and then coronavirus would spike again. Now, there still will be parties to celebrate this, but it would have been treated like a national holiday if it was like June 1st and we all had time to plan. Okay, so Pam, what's been going on with Disney?
We have been discussing the idea of the exclusivity window in movie theaters, basically all pandemic, because, that's something that has really taken a hit over the course of the last year because of theater closures and things like that. Disney is really kind of doubling down on getting rid of the 90-day exclusivity window altogether. It's looking like they're really pushing for maybe 45 days max, and that's it, which is a really big deal because, 45 days before something goes to a video on demand service is really not a long time to wait. So this all came about because Disney announced a few release plans for some of the bigger titles that had been pushed back due to the pandemic. First, they announced the release date for Jungle Cruise, which is this movie based on the theme park ride starring Emily Blunt and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Like movies such as Raya and the Last Dragon and also Cruella, which is coming up, and Black Widow. This is going to be released simultaneously in theaters and also on Disney Plus with premiere access on July 30th. But then they announced release dates for Shang-Chi, which is the next big Marvel movie coming up, and also Free Guy, which is the movie starring Ryan Reynolds, where he is a spare player in a video game and he doesn't know it until he realizes it. So those are going to be released on September 3rd and on August 3rd, respectively. These are going to go straight to movie theaters, and this is a big deal because this is the first set of movies that will be going straight into cinemas in a while since New Mutants was released, which is not a Disney title, but it is a Fox title, and they're now owned by Disney. And then 45 days after this, you'll be able to pay a fee to stream these at home.
You still have to pay a fee?
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
It's like VOD, video on demand.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah. So the interesting thing is that when Disney announced these plans, they didn't like specifically specify that they were still kind of looking into this hybrid release system for certain titles and also to close up this theatrical exclusivity window. They just basically said that they're exploring options and want to be pretty liberal with exploring different ways to release titles in the future, which is kind of a big deal because, you know, an entire year of shutting down this industry has led to some changes that we could be seeing for a really long time.
Yeah.
But now that everybody's getting vaccinated and things are opening back up, I'm kind of wondering if your guys' stances have changed in terms of whether you would like to see this exclusivity window closed up a bit more, or whether you actually still think you prefer to go to the movies and see movies in the traditional way versus at home.
I think it's going to be a case-by-case basis. How badly do I want to see a movie? Because if I want to see it really badly, I'll probably see it in a theater. Because like I said a week or two ago, we went to see that new Bob Odenkirk movie, Nobody, in a theater. First movie we've seen in over a year in a theater. And it was a good time, you know, brought back memories of going to the theater. You know, I was annoyed by the fact that people were taking off their masks, even though they weren't supposed to, but it was still good to be back. And I felt comfortable since I was fully vaccinated and it wasn't very busy in there. I guess that's another factor too. If I knew Jungle Cruise or Shang-Chi was going to be a packed theater, I might be uncomfortable with that. If they're spacing everybody out every other row, I think I'd be okay with that and space people out, you know, have empty seats to the left and right of you. But I don't know. It's going to be a case-by-case basis for me, but I am eager to go see more movies in the theater because it was nice to be back a couple of weeks ago and I want to do it again soon for a bigger movie.
I agree. I miss going to the movies. My roommate, Kristen, who also writes for Hypable, she covers a lot of our movies and stuff. She is itching to get back to theaters. She really misses the experience. And I do too. Although I have to admit, I really love streaming things from home. I love not having to leave and put on clothes and wear a mask. Like, it's so nice.
And put on clothes. Like, are you just watching movies naked with your roommate?
Real clothes. I should.
Oh, I see. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying.
Although I can do what I want in my own bedroom.
Of course you can.
But I also have to admit that the Disney Premier Access thing kind of annoys me. You know, we already pay for the streaming service, and we paid for Mulan and I didn't end up loving Mulan, and I felt kind of annoyed that, you know, we put money into that. And I'm very excited for some of the upcoming slate and everything, but I just feel like there's got to be a better system. And I am worried about how this is going to impact like the film industry and in movie theaters and stuff like that, because how there are some movies, like Mortal Kombat, that went right to HBO Max for a month and then is also in theaters. And you have to wonder how much money that's actually going to make being split like that versus if it had its full theater run, if things were back to normal. You know, are they not going to profit off that first movie to be able to make a sequel and all those kind of things? So it's really messy right now.
You know, honestly, I think it depends. HBO Max is very interesting because they're not charging people more than the subscription fee to to watch these movies. And so I do kind of wonder how they're going to justify that, because I can see how Disney is making up its money by adding that Premier Access fee, because they're pocketing most of it. So that's the thing, right? If they put something on Disney Plus and people pay $30 to see it, that's $30 that's going straight to Disney. And it's not being split with the theaters. And I believe that theaters take 50% of the ticket sales, if I'm not mistaken. So it's quite a big chunk. I could be wrong though, so don't quote me. But it's something. So for something like that, I mean, like, yeah, I could see how it might be a little bit more lucrative, but I don't know how it works over at Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Karen, I too find the Premier Access thing very annoying because we're already paying a monthly fee there. And I'm afraid that this is going to become the new normal, where the media industry has gotten us used to paying for all kinds of monthly subscriptions. And that's fine. I get it. But now they're going to start conditioning us to get used to fees on top of existing fees. And I'm very scared that that's going to become the new normal.
Mm-hmm. Can you imagine? I mean, Netflix has this huge slate of movies coming out this year. They're promising us a new movie every week. There's been a ton of talk about how Netflix actually makes its money and how they're not really worried about, like, you know, immediate profits and stuff, because they just keep putting it back into new properties. But what's not to say that they have, you know, a gold membership, like, channel or something like that, where they put the best of their movies there and you have to pay extra for it. Like, we could definitely, that's a very possible future.
Or early access to Netflix originals, you know, 2 weeks early or something like that. And by the way, I'm at my streaming subscription limit right now. Like, I keep feeling tempted to sign up for Peacock, but then I'm like, I've already got Hulu, Disney Plus, Netflix, you know, a Patreon or two who I support, HBO Max, of course. I pay for cable because I like some live television, so I need that too. But I'm at my limit.
Does your cable service doesn't come with Peacock? Because I just found out that ours does.
I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, so Xfinity gives you Peacock for free, which is kind of cool.
But wait a second. I think NBC owns Xfinity, right? So that's probably why. NBC Universal.
Oh, it's possible, yeah. But they might have like some other deals for different.
Yeah.
And I found this out because I really wanted to check out that Girls 5 Eva show, because that looked really fun.
Okay.
On Peacock. Yeah. And isn't it on Peacock? I believe so. Yeah.
I think so. I also just hate the name Peacock. Like, I get it. It's their logo, but Peacock.
Yeah.
It's awful.
I guess they didn't want to do NBC Plus.
No. Well, I agree that the whole Plus thing is very tired at this point. They need to let go of that. Mm-hmm. I also saw the other day, Twitter's going to start rolling out a subscription service too called Twitter Blue that lets you undo the sending of tweets. Every business needs a subscription service because of that recurring income. That's why creators love Patreon. But we're all going to hit our limits at some point. Pam, where are you in terms of like going back to the theater?
Well, I really love going to the movies, so I am excited to get back to that. I don't know. I think for me, it really is a title by title basis. Mm-hmm. But also, like, some of these fees are really expensive, like you guys were saying. And so usually what really ends up being a deciding factor is whether or not I'm going to split like a $30 fee, for example, with somebody else. So I'll just, you know, my brother and I split all of the streaming services for now until they decide that you can't do that anymore, which would really suck. And so anytime I want to, you know, maybe watch something, I'll shoot him a text and just say, hey, like, I think I want to watch this. Like, what are you thinking? And then we decide if we're going to, you know, split it. And that's fine because the movie tickets out here for like an AMC in San Francisco is going to be about $15 a head anyway. So for me, it's kind of the same. But I know that there are some regions in the United States where like it's way cheaper to go to the movies. And so it maybe doesn't make sense if it's just like a 2-person household to shell out.
Well, and also, Pam, has there been any big changes in your life that would maybe lead you to actually go to a movie theater?
Oh, are you setting me up for my big news?
Do you have this slotted somewhere else or no?
No, I just didn't know where to put it. I thought about putting in the breaking news and I was like, that seems kind of really self-important. I got vaccinated on Friday, so you guys can stop worrying about me. I had to go all the way to the city to get it, but
Sorry, I was blasting music over while you were talking. What did you say?
Were you?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, I just said I got vaccinated on Friday, and I had to like drive into San Francisco to get the vaccine I wanted, which was the Johnson & Johnson, so I could just be done with one stick.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Well, I'm very happy to hear that.
Thanks. I know you were worried. Andrew,
I was getting worried.
You guys, Andrew messaged me like the day before, and he was like, "Are you going to get vaccinated soon? Because I'd really like to make sure you're okay."
I started getting worried. I was like,
really
shit,
nice.
when's Pam going to get vaccinated already? Because also you just keep hearing about how easy it is to get vaccinated at this point. So I'm like, and I know that's not the case for everywhere in the country, but I was
No.
Yeah. And I was thinking maybe our listeners are wondering too. And obviously I want you to be protected. And I know you're eager to see your family and all that. So
it was good because I was able to let you know exactly when I was getting vaccinated.
Then I felt like an asshole. I was like, if I just waited like one more day, I wouldn't have had to.
I would have just been like, I'm already vaccinated.
I couldn't take it anymore though. I needed to know.
I appreciate you.
Oh, that's very exciting, especially because now that means the whole panel has been vaccinated, and we only let Karen on today because we knew she was vaccinated. You need to be vaccinated to come on the show. Yes, this occurs over Zoom, but still, you need to be vaccinated to come on the show. So did you have any side effects, by the way, if you don't mind my asking?
No, I didn't. My brother got the Johnson & Johnson as well. He got it early because he is asthmatic, and he also did not have any side effects. So yeah.
Good. Glad to hear that.
Fine.
That's great.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the same for other people, but
yeah.
No blood clots either, in case anybody's curious or worried.
Such a non-issue just because of how few people are actually affected by that.
I know.
So I wanted to talk to Karen today about her side hustle and writer life. Karen, like she said at the top of the show, she's been an editor at Hypable for many years, and she heads up our book section. She also spent a few years offering her editing services to people on Fiverr, and found a lot of success there. Fiverr's a place where you can post a job and say, I can do this for you. It started with like all jobs. You can hire anybody for $5 or something like that. That was like the appeal. But now you can set your own prices. You don't have to limit yourself to a $5 fee. So she found a lot of success there. And I really do mean a lot of success. So I wanted to talk to you about this because it honestly, Karen, inspires me that you've had so much success there. Like you go to Karen's profile and she's got so many reviews and everybody's raving about her. I'm like, damn. And it's, Karen just sitting at home doing her thing that she's so good at. So tell us, why did you initially decide to join Fiverr?
Well, it wasn't even my idea to begin with. So I owe somebody else a lot of gratitude for that. But basically, I graduated college in 2010 with an art history degree and went to work for a family friend selling antiques and collectibles on eBay. And I was very happy with that, even though I knew that wasn't, going to be my career or anything, but it really introduced me to an online world where you could kind of create your own business and do all of this. And my boss, she suggested that, she knew how much I loved writing, and I wanted to be a writer since like fourth grade. I mean, it's always been a dream of mine. And I've always been pretty good at editing and just English language and grammar and all of that. And she said, you should join Fiverr and just put up a gig for editing and see what happens. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll try it. And I had no idea what I was doing. I had no editing experience whatsoever. I just was kind of naturally good at it. But, other than pretty basic writing classes and English classes and comp classes, didn't have any extra knowledge about that sort of thing. But people hired me, and that was the shocking part to begin with, but it kind of just snowballed from there. And the more people you get to hire you, to take a chance on you, the more reviews they'll leave. And as you know, from, everybody buys stuff online, reviews are kind of the be all end all of that. And it took a lot of patience. I've been doing it since right before I got hired on Hypable, actually. So it's been like 9 years that I've been doing that. And now I have thousands of reviews, and I've earned a good amount of money from that, but it takes time and patience and probably a little bit of luck with a lot of hard work too.
Yeah. Yeah. At the peak of your Fiverr business, how many jobs do you think you were being hired for per week?
I don't even know if I could tell you that. It was a lot. I was doing 3, 4, 5 jobs a day. And some of them were maybe 1,000 words, 2,000 words, which is just a couple of pages, or they would be entire books, which would be hundreds of pages, or academic papers. Like, it was really just one of those things where you never knew what you were going to get, which is part of why I liked it, because it was always interesting and I was reading up on things I never would have read to begin with. But
yeah,
I guess I always find it very important to talk about money when you're talking about freelancing, because obviously that's what everybody's interested in. So I will say, in the beginning, I was happy getting $300 a month from Fiverr because I live in Ohio and rent is cheap, and that will pay for my half of the rent. And I was comfortable with that. And then I sort of started hating all the stuff I got, because with Fiverr, you kind of get anything. And if people buy your gig, you kind of just have to do it. And some of the stuff wasn't good or wasn't really worth my time. So I tripled my prices and got more business and ended up making between $1,000 or $1,500 a month just doing the editing. So
wow. You tripled your prices and got more business.
Yeah.
Why do you think that?
Good for you.
Yeah. Now, do you think that's because if people see a higher price, they think they're going to get higher quality work?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, I think part of it was the amount of reviews that I had too, and the years of experience I already had under my belt. But absolutely, your time is precious. And I've always had this rule with myself that if I wasn't making $15 an hour, I wasn't going to do a job, because $15 an hour isn't even that much, but it's a good amount to be able to put as your bare minimum. And I realized I was just sinking so much time into this. But I mean, pricing has a lot to do with it. And you can't help it. You kind of gravitate toward higher priced items thinking, okay, they have to be a better quality, right? And
people want to pay to just get the job done the first time.
Exactly.
Yeah. I felt that way with my podcasting business, editing for other people. Like, there are some rates that I just would not get out of bed for because, and I think you probably feel this way too, when you do something for so long, you want to take on projects that you'll actually enjoy. So for me, it's like, I don't get out of bed for, a certain rate. Normally it could be $20, $25 an hour, and it's usually 2 to 3 hours of work. I know this also reminds me, Pam, I hope you don't mind my bringing this up. I had offered you a news writing gig at another site.
Oh, I was just talking about this with somebody. Go ahead.
Okay, that asshole Andrew. He was such a Karen.
No, he wasn't.
No, so
that's the second or third Karen joke you've made so far. Weren't you the one saying that it's so old now?
I'm sorry. You're right.
So
You're right. Maybe I subconsciously wanted to come back. So I had offered a news writing gig to Pam. It only paid $10 an article. And I know that's nothing. And Pam said, honestly, that's not worth my time. And I totally understood. This was not a business I was running, but I got this from somebody else and I thought I'd offer it to you. But yeah, Pam, $10.
Yeah. You make me sound so much nicer than I was. I think that I was a little bit more.
I think you used like an emoji of a lady throwing up her hands or something like that.
Probably.
Or doing her nails.
Yeah, $10 is nothing. And let me just tell you, it's not, here's the thing. So for what I do, and this would have been very similar. It would have been, $10 to turn around a news story. So a basic news story is anywhere from maybe 200 to 300 words at minimum, which doesn't really seem like a lot. And it's not, but even 200 to 300 words to do everything that involves. So for something like Hypable, it would be writing the story, reading up any additional information I need to pad the story, editing, so that if we do have editors on hand, they don't have to deal with too much crap if I'm, if I can catch something that I missed the first time around, filling in SEO, coming up with a headline, getting a featured image in there, and then tossing it up on, something like Facebook or, some kind of social site. In a breaking news situation, that's maybe like a half hour of work, which is fine. But it just doesn't make sense after you reach a certain point to waste your time with something that's not going to pay you what you're worth, because that's a half hour that I could be working somewhere else.
I totally
or an
get
hour
it.
that I could be working somewhere else.
Yeah, I totally get it. And I hope you didn't feel like you had to explain it to me, but more to our audience.
No. I wanted to say that because I just think it's important for people to hear, because so many people undervalue their own worth.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think it's just really important that if you're working for yourself, that you don't do that unless you absolutely have to, because like you should be valuing yourself and your time properly.
Yeah.
And you will find people that will work with you on those fees. And I think that that's really important as well. Not like, obviously don't expect so much if you're just starting out, but after a couple of years, especially if you're somebody like Karen that has, all of this experience and also has a lot of references that can vouch for her work, you should not be afraid to value yourself accordingly.
Yeah, definitely.
And I will say that imposter syndrome is definitely a thing when you're a freelancer. You're going to worry about whether you're overcharging people, about whether you're really worth that amount of money. I still do it all the time. I'm like, should I cut some money off of this bill? No, I spent the hours doing it. I did a good job. I'm worth this. You're going to struggle with that. But like Pam said, there are going to be people who will work with you at those prices, and the people who don't can find somebody else to do it for cheaper and maybe, less quality than you're going to be willing to do it. I have a lot of artist friends, and I see them talking all the time about how much time and effort they put into, drawings or things that they knit, and how, they might charge $200, $300 for it. And people are like, I'll give you $50 when that doesn't even come close to covering, expenses, let alone the time that's put into it. And there will be people out there who will push back on your prices, but there's going to be just as many people, if not more, who are just going to accept it and hire you. And if I can triple my prices and make, that much more money, make 10 times the amount of money that I was getting beforehand, then just trust me, it will work out for you.
Yeah, that's so true. I feel that way too with asking for certain rates, but you just have to remind yourself, and I really do try, but I also just feel bad asking, but I shouldn't.
Yeah.
It's a mess how you feel in your head. For example, I had been charging a client a flat rate for editing his show because the projects were simpler and I knew exactly how long each episode would take me to edit. But over the course of a year, the podcast had gotten more and more advanced as more people joined the show, and I knew I needed to ask him for more money because it was taking me more time, but I was afraid to. And finally, after months of procrastinating, I approached him and said, look, I need to be paid more for this because these are taking longer than ever. And he was good with it. And it was a huge relief, but I could have asked this weeks or months ago instead of delaying it just because I was so afraid to ask.
A lot of the time, too, people know that they're getting a good deal.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the other thing, too. I'm sure this guy knew, or this person, I don't know if he specified a gender. I'm sure this person knew that they were getting a good deal working with you and continuing to work with you for the quality of work that you're bringing to the table. So,
And I feel more confident than ever because I've been trying to find somebody who can help me with editing work. So I've gone on to Upwork and kind of auditioned some people with some editing projects. And oh man, it is messy work. And I'm paying them a lot, like $75 in one case to edit an hour-long project. And the rate, if you do a good job, that rate is definitely worth it. But this has happened to me twice now where I've paid about that much and the editing work is sloppy. And it makes me feel good, but it also disturbs me because I'm like, shit, am I ever going to find somebody who I can work with? Look, I know I'm not like one in a million, but I think it's hard to find these really good people who can take on these certain types of projects. Projects like a Millennial, where there's a lot of people, there's a lot of crosstalk going on. It's a high energy podcast. You know, editing a one-on-one podcast, that's easier. It's not the easiest, but it's easier than like 4 or 5 people. And I think a lot of people excel at that. But then once you start adding panelists on, and it gets harder to find somebody. So that's my challenge right now. Are there any podcast editors out there who are really good and can handle multi-person podcasts? Please do let me know. Submit your work.
Do you know what I think you should do? Is I think you should start advertising to college students.
Yeah. But ones with experience, right?
Right. Yeah. Somebody that's like going to school for like audio engineering or something like that.
Yeah.
And because I think that they're going to be wanting to do the best work possible because they're going to want to use that on their resumes and stuff like that.
Find a young version of us.
Yeah.
That is a good point.
Mold that person into your successor.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. That's a really good point, because the 2 people I've tested so far, they are probably a little older than me at least. And yeah, they just they're not trying to prove anything at this point anymore. So what tips do you have, Karen? I know you've mentioned a couple things already, but do you have any other tips for people who might want to join Fiverr? You know, you mentioned how you've been able to build up reviews, and that's awesome. But like, what about somebody who's just joining, doesn't have any reviews? What did you do to convince people?
Honestly, and you're not going to like this answer, nothing. I didn't do anything other than the work. And maybe that's just what it was, is, you know, I did a good enough job that people told other people, or they kept coming back and they kept leaving feedback, and it just kind of snowballed from there. I never did any advertising. If I had, I probably, you know, would have quadrupled what I was making and everything, but it was never something that I wanted to do full time. The editing, like I said, writing was really my big thing. Editing was supplemental income for a while. My biggest thing, I guess, would be whatever you do, just make sure you're passionate about it. Make sure you actually like doing it. For me, as crazy as this sounds, editing is fun. I like doing it because it's like fixing, you know, problems and putting everything in order, and it makes me feel good by the end of it. So I would wake up excited to do my work. And as anybody who knows anything about, you know, following your dreams and having a dream job and everything, you have to be excited to do it, because then you're willing to put in the work. And that's the only other thing, is just work hard, be patient. This stuff does not happen overnight. I've been doing this for 9 years, and, you know, there's still a lot more that I could be doing with my career as a writer and editor. Still a lot more for me to get to, but I've also done a lot too. And it's just, you know, it was part-time for a long time. And I was working 3 jobs, Hypable, the online job, and then Fiverr. And eventually the online stuff started to take over. I started doing Fiverr more often, and I just kind of rolled with the punches. Not always going to be easy. And there were some scary months where I wasn't sure how much income I was going to make, but
yeah,
if it's really what you want to do, you'll find a way.
Do you think you had really low prices at the outset, like lower than other editors on Fiverr? Or do you think maybe there weren't many other editors on Fiverr? I'm trying to still figure out how you built this customer base.
Right. I definitely tried to be as competitive as possible. I looked at other editing profiles on Fiverr and tried to figure out what they were offering and what they were charging for it. And I had zero experience. So I did try to be like extra competitive, set my prices low. And I think that did help a lot. There are some people who just want the cheapest price possible, the quickest turnaround possible, just get it done and hope that the quality is good. And then once you build up more of a customer base and have those reviews, you can slowly start charging more.
Karen, I'm not sure if you mentioned this, but can you kind of give me an idea of like what your target clientele was? Like, not, or maybe that's not the right word. Like, were you seeing mostly like students asking you to peer review their stuff, or was it like professional people?
It was a lot of stuff, actually. It was all over the place. I would say probably the biggest people were either students who were writing essays and just needed help, especially people where English wasn't their first language and they needed somebody to go over what they were doing. And then a lot of bloggers and stuff too, who just wanted somebody to go over their blog posts before they were published. But I had people who were writing full-fledged books. I had people who were writing, their best man speeches. I had people who just, I don't know, just everything you could possibly think of, ad copy, everything was thrown in there.
That's amazing.
So now you're an author. Tell us about that.
So actually, it all stemmed from Fiverr, weirdly enough. And one of the people I met early on in my career is a man named LT Ryan Lee. And he had me editing his books for him. And he was self-publishing them on Amazon. And he was like, look, I want to pay you more. I realize Fiverr is kind of a shitty platform. By the way, Fiverr takes 20%. So if you sign up for that, just know that for every $5 you earn, they take $1. And it does add up over time. And he was like, I just want to bypass this fee. I'll pay you more and we'll just keep up a working relationship. And I mean, that was 9 years ago too. So we've been working together. I've been editing his books in that time. I've been doing other writing projects with him, and he has a whole bunch of series. His main series is about a guy named Jack Noble, and that's sort of like a Reacher kind of thing, a little bit different than Reacher, but political military thrillers. It's a really good series. And he's been really, really good to me. And he wrote another series about a detective originally from Philly, I think. And his name was Mitch Tanner. And there was a character in the Mitch Tanner series named Cassie, who was a psychic. And he always wanted somebody to work with him to bring this character alive and give her own series. So that's what I do now. We're 3 books in. The 3rd book actually just came out on last Tuesday, May 11th, after a slight mishap. It took it a week to come out, but it's, Cassie Quinn mystery series, and we plot out all the details together and pass the drafts back and forth until we're happy. And it's pretty zippy turnaround time, but it's a lot of fun, and it feels really cool and weird to have my name on a book that I can hold in my hands. I'm still not used to it.
We're so happy for you.
Yeah, that's the coolest thing.
Yeah. And it's so hard to break through as an author. And I think another great lesson here is you never know what some work might lead to. In your case, you met this guy through Fiverr, and this connection has now turned you into a published author. I think that's really amazing. Yeah, and inspiring.
Like with anything, networking is hugely important. And, I wasn't expecting to have that happen when I went into it, but I think, treating all the people you work with in a kind and professional manner will take you tons of places. As journalists, we know this too, the interviews that we can conduct and everything, like having that personable relationship with people is vitally important. And
don't be a Karen. Right.
Exactly. That's number 3. But no, it's true. And because of Lee, I've met a ton of other people as well that I'm going to be working on with different projects. And it's all this kind of void circling each other where it just, you never know what's going to happen. And it's pretty fun. It keeps it interesting.
Yeah. So people can find your books on Amazon, right?
Yes.
We'll include a link in the show notes, but you probably prefer people buy them elsewhere, right? Or no?
No. So it's actually pretty much just Amazon. So we self-publish the books through Amazon, and everything is right there. You can get paperback copies. You can get the ebook as well.
Cool. I imagine breaking into brick and mortar must be impossible, and like a Barnes and Noble,
Yeah. I don't know too much about how that works. I know that obviously if you're traditionally published by one of the big publishing houses like Penguin or Simon and Schuster, any of those, you're probably going to end up in a Barnes and Noble or something like that. Self-publishing is different. Anybody can self-publish a book. So it is very difficult to stand out. But yeah, a lot of people who self-publish will sometimes get picked up by traditional publishing houses, either a re-release of their series that was popular online or to write a new series under that house specifically. So, and there's a lot of authors who do it all. They publish under, several different traditional houses, and they might self-publish on Amazon too.
Yeah. Okay. So I have a couple more questions related to this, but first I want to bring in some thoughts from one of our listeners, Evan. He is self-published as well, and he is an author, and he actually very kindly sent us signed copies of his book, Deathless, which was very nice of him. I haven't received a copy of Karen. Karen, why don't you?
Yeah, where's my signed copy of Karen's book?
Yeah, come on.
I did just get some in today. So.
I am so kidding.
Yeah, no, me too.
If I receive that, I'll just cry tears of joy just because I'm so proud of you. But so like I said, he's a self-published author, but he struggles, like so many authors, to get noticed. And he sent me some info on his situation. He recently started trying to seriously operate as an online creator, and he's found it more difficult than the actual writing process. And I'm paraphrasing. He shared a bunch of info, so I decided to paraphrase his thoughts. It's difficult to network as an author. Prominent reviewers, like YouTubers, get flooded with requests. And Hypable, we know this at Hypable. People come to us all the time. Also, Evan said many writing communities have rules preventing self-promotion, so you can't promote in Facebook groups and whatnot. Readers also have many different tastes and can be sensitive to books that involve politics. And so this is really frustrating to him, but he said at the end, quote, "Overall, I'm not sure how many of these challenges are unique to writers, and I shouldn't complain too much when I have a good support network and have had more fortune than some other artists. No one ever said that the road to success would be fast or easy, but there are certainly barriers that seem impossible to overcome and modern complications associated with marketing this kind of work online." End quote. So, Evan, I'm glad to hear that you have a good support network, and you say you've found success, which is great. But Karen, I'm sure you've experienced these issues as well. And even as an editor on Fiverr, difficult to network, hard to stand out.
Absolutely true. All of it. It is very difficult. And sometimes it's luck, as annoying and frustrating as that is. Sometimes it really does just come down to luck. One of Lee's other co-authors, Brian, he writes a series. It's the Rachel Hatch series. And that has been blowing up lately because it just landed at the right time. She's a kick-ass character, and it's a good story, and it's well written, and it's just been taking off. And, part of it is marketing. If you're looking to be self-published, I would definitely look into all the marketing options that Amazon has. It's complicated and expensive, but sometimes that's the way to just get your book in front of enough people, and word of mouth will keep it rolling from there. But yeah, it's extremely challenging. And especially when you pour your heart and soul into something, to see it fall flat or not do as well as you had hoped it would do, it can be crushing. But the best thing to do is, if you really care about it, if it's really what you want to do with your career and your life, just keep moving forward, and it'll happen someday.
Do you think discovery happens on Amazon? Do you think it's easy to kind of accidentally be discovered on Amazon through their recommendation widgets? Or I know you mentioned advertising, but what if just
easy? No, probably not. Possible? Absolutely. There are Lee's books have done very, very well. He's built up a very good following for himself. And because of that, he's had talks with, movie production companies and television production companies.
Oh, wow.
He's had talks with traditional publishing houses and even Amazon's own publishing house that they have. Opportunity definitely comes out of being on Amazon. I think that their own widgets and stuff with recommending books and everything, some people are not going to pay attention to that. Some people are. And it kind of all depends, unfortunately.
With podcasts, being discovered is very difficult as well, because there are, like books, so many podcasts out there.
Mm-hmm.
And all of these podcast apps don't really help the smaller guys, like a Millennial or a MuggleCast. They all get in bed with the podcast networks, and, those podcasts always appear in the recommendation areas. But these podcast apps need to do better about featuring the smaller guys as well. So, Evan, I completely understand where you're coming from in terms of getting noticed. It's hard for us too. And all podcasters really feel this. When I go to podcasting conferences, this is one of the big topics. And time again, the number one recommendation that I hear is just word of mouth, having your existing listeners spread the word about the show. And I think a lot of podcasts have ended up finding success that way, but it's hard. You got to compel people to actually spread the word about your show, your book, your album, whatever else. Never-ending challenge. Karen, thank you again. This has been great. I could talk to you all day about your work as an author now. It's so interesting to see you publish these books and get noticed. We're so happy for you.
Do you ever pat yourself on the back, Andrew? I mean, you're
for
a huge
discovering
part
you?
of this too. Yeah, I mean, really.
I don't pat myself on the back, but I am extremely glad that Hypable has opened up so many opportunities for you, for me, for Pam, hopefully, for McCall. She went on to get a great writing gig recently. We just had to say bye to Brittany as well, but she credits Hypable with bringing her to where she is today.
Ariana, too.
Ariana
wrote an episode of Roswell.
Writing on a TV show. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really incredible.
Yeah. It is really cool because, like, for people like us and also people like them, like, we've all been involved with the site for so long. So it's really lovely to see people go on and do other things and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I don't take credit for that. I mean, they show their talents on Hypable. So I'll take credit for paying for the server, but you guys put great work on Hypable, and that's why you've all done some amazing things outside of Hypable as well. So
I had one last question for Karen. Karen, you don't publish under your full name, right?
Right.
So why did you decide to go with a different name, and how did you come up with that?
My parents are going to be so disappointed, although I think they already know. I don't love my name. That's probably shocking to everybody.
That's fair.
But I've always kind of struggled. It's an older name and I've always kind of struggled with it. But I really wanted to kind of have like a cool, mysterious pen name. And the pen name that I really wanted, like somebody already writes under it and I didn't feel right, also sharing the same name. So I was kind of looking for a way to stand out, I guess, a way to be a little bit more unique. And because Lee writes under LT Ryan, I was like, oh, what if I go under Cam Rott? My full name is Karen Michelle Rott. And I thought that kind of sounded cool and different and unique. And so I just went with it.
Okay. I like that.
I've had a couple of people say it sounds like a fancy professional author name, which I appreciate. I think I'm too close to it to see it that way, but
it does sound detective-y.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. If it makes you feel better, I now regret not going with some kind of stage name before I started professionally.
Why?
Doing like journals, because Pamela Gokobachi is way too long and it's like super easy to, I don't know. I feel like I should have gone with something. It's mostly the last name.
Yeah.
It's mostly the last name, which is very long. So I feel that.
Well, if it means anything, I love your name. So I'm glad that you did.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Well, Pam, you can change your name on this show. We won't mind if you really want to. You can live that fantasy, but just here on Millennial.
Here on Millennial.
All right. Well, we'll include a link to Karen's work in the show notes as well. Thanks again, Karen, for coming on today. We really appreciate it. I'm so glad we had you on because I was hoping you would be your normal, everyday, delightful self, and you were. So thank you for that.
Stop, I'm blushing. Okay.
We found out Karen watches movies naked in bed. That's what I learned today.
She really shared a lot.
That lives on the internet now. Thanks, guys.
Oops. I would tell you I would delete.
Confess until after dark.
I have a confession related to what we're going to talk about in After Dark today, but I've been hesitant. I've been torn over if I should confess this with Karen here, because like she works for me and it's just weird. Like Pam does too, but Pam knows how to deal with my shit now. Now I'm going to say something in After Dark maybe that might disturb you.
I've listened to a few of your podcasts here and there. I've heard some confessions. Don't worry about it. I know your deep, dark secret.
I have a story related to Ellen's TV show. You will never guess it. Okay. And I think it's weird. I'm going to be embarrassed to admit it, especially in front of Karen. But that will happen in After Dark today, because in After Dark, like I said at the top of the show, we're going to be talking about shitty workplace environments. Ellen just made some big news about her show. It's going to be ending, so we thought we'd talk about what's been going on at Ellen. And we're also going to talk about what went on at Basecamp. This is a tool like Slack. They decided to ban political discussions, all forms of political discussions amongst the staff. You cannot talk politics or any societal issues. And high-level people departed and many others departed Basecamp because of this decision. So we will talk about that in After Dark today. That will be available at patreon.com/millennial. It's time for some recommendations. I want to recommend this new series on HBO Max called Hacks. It is a half-hour dark comedy about a Vegas comedy star whose popularity is waning and a down-on-her-luck writer in LA who is hired to help save the comedian's Vegas show. It caught my eye because A, it was getting very good reviews, and B, it's set in Vegas, and I thought that'd be fun to watch my city. The two characters hate each other at the outset, and so far in the story, they still do, so it'll be interesting to see how that working relationship develops. And again, that's Hacks on HBO Max. I've heard from some critics that it's one of the best shows on HBO Max yet, so if you want to justify that subscription fee, check out Hacks.
In honor of Karen being here and her writing side hustle and stuff, I wanted to recommend Trello, which is an app, but also a website. You can download it on your desktop or on your phone. The reason I wanted to recommend this is because back in the day when I used to participate in NaNoWriMo or make an attempt, it's a really easy way to organize your thoughts if you're like trying to plot something. It's not like traditionally made to plot out a story, but I just like that you can like add little note cards in and have different boards and kind of move things around so that if you're more of like a visual person and that helps you, you can kind of just like see all of your notes in one place and just kind of arrange them in a way that makes sense. So for any of you aspiring writers out there, I would recommend checking that out. There is a paid version, but the free version is perfectly adequate. So
you may have just changed my entire life. I'm definitely going to check that out.
Oh, nice.
I'm going to recommend Dustborn by Aaron Bowman. It's a post-apocalyptic novel comparable to the excellent movie Waterworld from 1995 or Mad Max Fury Road. It's set in a world that's nothing but dust. All the oceans have dried up, and this girl has this brand on her back that's supposed to lead her to the Verdant, which is this oasis on this desert planet. I've been having a lot of trouble getting into reading over the last couple of years, and this year I kind of, made myself jump back into it, and it's been going excellently, especially because of books like Dustborn, which was so, so good. I'd highly recommend it. And if you do read it, please come talk to me about it because I'm obsessed and nobody else I know has read it yet.
Well, speaking of coming to you to talk about it, what is your username on Twitter?
Karen_Raught. So KAREN_ROUGHT.
Also, a couple of reminders. Make sure you are following the show for free on your favorite podcasting app so you never miss an episode. You can contact us by writing directly to millennialshow@gmail.com or using the contact form on millennialshow.com, as well as the anonymous confessional form on millennialshow.com. You can also follow us on social media. We are Millennial Show on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Thanks, everybody, for listening to today's episode. I'm Andrew.
I'm Pamela.
And I'm Karen.
Bye, everyone.